signed contract extensions with head coach Sean McVay and general manager Les Snead. So McVay has a new contract. He's going to need a new offensive coordinator because Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur has been officially hired as the Arizona Cardinals head coach. Sean McVay asked about that today. He had this to say.
You're really happy for Mike. You know, awesome opportunity, and shoot, we'll get to see him twice a year now. So happy for him. I did think that this was something that could occur. It never fails. Every time me and my wife go on vacation, somebody's usually getting a head job, and then I'm spending too much time on my phone. But Mike did a great job, and really appreciative of him. And I think I was able to be a better head coach because of the contributions that he and our offensive staff have made over the last couple of years, and we're looking to continue that. You know, Mike was a tremendous contributor to us.
Cardinals have the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, and around middle of the pack when it comes to cap space. LaFleur is going to have to answer a lot of questions ahead of the draft, most notably what the future holds for Kyler Murray at quarterback. Tim Hasselbeck, do you like the hire for Arizona?
Yeah, I think much like, you know, when you look at, you know, the coaching tree that people have been attracted to, right? It's you think we're just talking about Clint Kubiak. It's kind of a similar thing. West Coast roots in terms of the basis of, you know, the offenses that have been run and the experience, you know, that Matt LaFleur has. And so I think, and then Mike LaFleur has. And so I think when you look at all of that, it makes sense. Now, I think that there's going to be some challenges. You had them up on the full screen there. You start talking about who's the quarterback going to be, and then how do you get the quarterback if he's not the guy that's on your roster right now in Kyler Murray, which is kind of my anticipation at the at this point. So yeah, I think it makes sense. You know, I think this is a tougher job than people realize, even though there is some talent there because of, you know, what you have to do to try to acquire the quarterback of the future for you.
Tim, this is a tough one here. So Mike LaFleur is ready for this job. He has been, I think people have had him as a potential head coaching candidate for quite some time. But think about the division he walks into right now. Yeah. The rest of the teams in the division had 38 combined wins this past season. The Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams all won at least 12 games. The Seahawks, of course, are playing in the Super Bowl right now. And you mentioned it, Tim. This job is going to be one that's going to require some patience because obviously the Cardinals need a quarterback. And in the worst sort of way, right? Kyler Murray will be behind them at some point here soon. Jacoby Brissett is nothing more than a bridge quarterback for now. Where do you find that quarterback this offseason? They're picking 3rd. They will not be able to draft a quarterback at the top of the draft, or else they will be overdrafting a quarterback at the top of the draft, in my estimation. Is there a trade target? Is there a free agent target? There is no Sam Darnold in this year's free agency class like there was last year. The Jets and the Cardinals, picking 2 and 3, have to be incredibly methodical about addressing this quarterback spot this offseason because while they are buyers, this is not a buyer's market. So I just hope that Arizona is prepared for what could be a multi-year process to get back into the NFC West mix.
I don't want to fast forward past the flex by McVay as he looks like he's in a beautiful surround. Yeah. He talked about being on vacation with his wife and somebody's always getting hired off his tree as if that was just nothing. So congratulations to him and his tree and all the coaches. But as I look at LaFleur, you mentioned it, the quarterback situation is huge. Jacoby Brissett is that bridge quarterback. He's also a veteran in the room. So when you talk about where that next quarterback is going to come from, if it's not this offseason, to me, you roll with the veteran, a guy that you know people within that locker room will follow behind because he's the guy that was there with Drake May a year ago in his rookie year. He was with Tua Tagovailoa as a young quarterback in Miami as well. So he has a ton of experience being that bridge quarterback or being the veteran presence for the offense. He was also in Cleveland when they had a lot of things going on with Deshaun Watson. So for LaFleur, you look at this offense, Trey McBride as a tight end. Look at what he's just come from with McVay and what they were able to do with all of those tight ends there. How do you find a way to be competitive early on while you're waiting for that quarterback of the future to be available?
In case people are wondering, Jacoby Brissett did sign a 2-year contract last year, so he's under contract for 2026 and an option. And only Matthew Stafford and Drake May threw more passing touchdowns from week 6 on than Jacoby Brissett this year. Pro Bowl week is here. See the league's top playmakers in a 7-on-7 flag football showdown in a fun, competitive format that showcases elite talent. Speaking of elite talent, our Michelle Beisner-Buck is there and caught up with Falcons running back Bijan Robinson.
your second consecutive Pro Bowl. What does it mean to you to be named to these games, especially when you know that the fan has got a vote in it?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a blessing. Like, God is so good for, giving me an opportunity to be here. And obviously all the fans that, contribute, and the players and the coaches, like, it all ties in. So, with me, I'm honored to do it for 2 years in a row. And hopefully, like, I get to build these relationships and just continue to have fun with these guys.
Lastly, new president of football operations is Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
New head coach Kevin Stefanski has been singing your praises since he got hired. What are you most excited about for the Falcons' 2026 season?
Yeah, I think even just when they came in with so much urgency already, and that's what I feel like, we can strive on and can come up upon. And even when Kevin came in the building, and me and him had a conversation right away, and to hear his plans and to hear what he has in store for the team, it's super exciting.
All right, Field, new leadership in Atlanta, as Michelle and Bijan were discussing. What should be first on their to-do list?
Common theme for teams that have a top 15 or so pick is, what are we doing at quarterback to begin next season? Obviously, Atlanta has a quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. that they believed enough a couple of seasons ago to be their long-term starter. He's coming off of a torn ACL. This is a new regime as well. I don't know exactly where they stand on what Michael Penix Jr. represents for them going forward. Kirk Cousins recently restructured his contract that sets up the likelihood that he is going to be released shortly after the free agency window begins. So is this a team that finds a bridge quarterback to hold down the fort until they have Michael Penix Jr. back in the fold, or what is their plan at quarterback? Because for all of the attractive things about this roster, this defense was terrific. They were a sack machine on defense last year. Bijan Robinson, Drake London. There are some legitimate pieces on the offense. The quarterback is going to be the straw that stirs the drink. And perhaps they have the right coach for the job in Kevin Stefanski, because he's been living that reality for like a half a decade now, right? Everything but the quarterback in Cleveland.
I think that's the scary thing as you look at this, because he is walking into another situation where who is their quarterback going to be? Is there a veteran that they're able to find if Kirk Cousins is walking out the door? But I think beyond that, if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, you're excited about the future because you look at the structure of the organization. You're like, all right, you feel like you're moving in the right direction. Matt Ryan comes in to be president. You hire Ian Cunningham to come over and be your general manager. And then so far, Stefanski going out getting Tommy Rees and Tanner Eggstrom, adding people, Alex Van Pelt, to this coaching staff that you've seen have had success in other places. That gets you excited because you mentioned some of those weapons. We're talking about, we're seeing right there on the field, Bijan Robinson on our screen, but then also Drake London, figuring out what you're going to do with Kyle Pitts, if you're going to bring him back. Those are guys that you can go win with, and actually having your defense come back. All of those young guys, the guys on the outside, the two edge rushers, having really good, solid years starting off, getting Jeff Ulbrich to come back in that building. You're looking at that team in that division and saying, you know what, hell, we can win. We have to figure out that quarterback position, but you don't need someone to be at an elite level right away to win in that division. So I'd be excited if I was an Atlanta Falcons fan.
Yeah, I agree with Jim Mack, and I think the other part about it, when you look at it, it's like you mentioned the talent on the roster. I think there's a lot of talent on the roster. You got to figure out quarterback, and I think because of, if you just think of the, I guess, perspective that Stefanski is coming into this job with, look, he had everything but a quarterback in Cleveland, and it didn't work. And so I think when you come with that perspective, I think you've got to be willing to take a risk and somehow swing big to try to fix that problem. And so, it's just kind of interesting with Cousins, restructuring his contract. He actually be the perfect bridge type of guy. But I don't know that you can operate, with this notion that you have time. And so, with that, I think that Penix's injury history going back to college and now what's happened in the pros, I think they've got to be extremely aggressive. And look, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't, the names that'll be out there, aren't going to be names that are going to excite everybody, but, maybe it's Mac Jones, maybe it's, maybe even things like Kenny Pickett and else, and things like that. But like the reality is you have to do something. Otherwise, what happened in Cleveland is going to happen all over again in Atlanta.
A lot of teams out there looking for creative solutions at the quarterback position, much like the Seattle Seahawks were this time last year. Coming up next, yes,